In today's video, I'm going to give you my 3-year review of a MAX 26 XLT tractor, hydrostatic, made by Mahindra. And this tractor here is made by Mitsubishi for Mahindra. Some of you may not know that Mahindra actually has a vested interest in Mitsubishi. They own a considerable amount of them, so they have quite a bit of control over the manufacture of these machines. This one's made in Japan, again, by Mitsubishi. It's 26 horsepower, 4-wheel drive, industrial tires, hydrostatic, 2-range, high and low. And if you've been with me for a while, you'll see I've done some other reviews. I did the initial review, the 1-year review, 2-year review, and this one's the 3-year review. And we're at about 250 hours now, which may not be a lot to some of you, but this is about the time when a tractor will, if you have issues, they'll rear their ugly heads. And I've had a couple of things with this tractor, and I'll go over those with you. But let's just do a quick overview of the tractor and see how it's holding up. So we'll start at the front. The bucket's held up pretty well. This tractor is the one I do most of my loader work with. I've got a bucket on the bigger tractor, but it's a gear, and this was the one I knew I was primarily going to use for loader work. So it does a lot of barn cleaning, it does gravel, whatever else I want to dig. And it's really been a great tractor as far as that goes. The bucket's held up really well. You know, I've bent it a little bit pushing rocks and stuff, but overall I've been pretty happy with the loader on this tractor, and it's been, you know, it's pretty durable. I always push straight, I never push at an angle. The skid steer quick couplers, one of them has been a little sticky, so I keep putting lubricant on it, and it frees up for a while and then it sticks. So I'm not sure what that's all about, but because I go between this tractor I put the forks on, the other one I put the bale spear and the snow pusher on, so it's not a lot of back and forth with this one, but sometimes I put the forks on because I need to put equipment under the barn, and this one's got low clearance, so this is the one I use. Now, one thing that's interesting, and the tie rods are on the front, so you got to be kind of careful that you don't mess those up. And this has 2 pistons on it. There's one on this side, and then there's one on this other side. So the tie rods are in the front. They're kind of up here out of the way, but still you got to be real careful you don't gack those up on something. So it steers really well. I haven't had any trouble with that. Pretty easy to open the hood. This one has an obvious latch there, so you just pull that down and the hood pops right up, and then everything's really accessible in there. Lever here, you just pull it down, and then it's on struts, so it'll open right up. So typical of all these tractors, you've got the battery in the front, and then you got this screen here to keep your radiator, and then everything else is in behind. Air filter, all your maintenance items are pretty easy to get to. So we'll move it down to the side. I don't particularly care for the fuel here. It seems like the older you get, the heavier they are, and plus you can spill fuel all over the place. So I have a portable fuel tank that I can use to pump fuel, so it's not a horrible problem for me. But those of you, it's lifting a 5-gallon can of fuel up there, it's a little bit of a struggle, and then not to spill it all over the place. The loader comes off and on pretty easily. I took it off last year, so you'll see one of the videos on that. And the thing I don't like about this one is it only has one parking stand, and they're kind of cheaped out on that because a lot of the manufacturers, they have 2. And the John Deere had, as you were backing out, the stand came down, the grill guard was kind of attached, so as I was backing out, that came down, and then it just sat there ready for you to come into it. So I did like that loader probably better than this one. So you've got your couplers here, and the John Deere had the hydraulic valve here. Some of the Kubotas are here, and some of the other ones are here. The advantage of it back here is, well, it's more ergonomic, but you've got a couple of cables that run through, and those are prone to issues. And so you can see these right here. These are your joystick cables, and sometimes those will come up into your block and they'll be a little messed up, and you can see right there, those things sometimes cause you an issue. I haven't on this one, but they did with my 1635 Mahindra. So then you got all your steel hydraulic lines here that runs back, and everything's underneath. So everything's pretty well sheltered under here. There's not a lot of clearance, so you kind of got to be careful. On this side of the tractor, you've got your 3-point, your auxiliary valve if you had one, power point that I've never used, cell phone holder. The toolboxes on these are just like everybody else's. They're pretty cheesy, and they don't last too terribly long before the cover usually breaks off before anything. I do like this seat a lot, and this is one of the selling points of Mahindra to me. And now Kubota's got the 02 series when you get into the L models, and they have those on them, so, but they didn't when I bought this in the 1635. So this was one of the selling points. Is Mahindra calls this the M comfort seat, and it's super comfortable. It is a nice seat. And Mitsubishi insists on using these rocker pedals, which once you get used to them, they're okay. But having your turning brakes on the same side, I'm not sure how that works, because if you hit either one of those brakes in cruise control, it kicks off and you stop. And usually when you're using turning brakes, you're still going forward. So unless you can figure out how to get both feet over here, it's kind of dumb. The seat's easily adjustable. Here's your flow rate, your depth. So you turn it one way or the other, and it just depends on what implement you have on the back, and that will determine the rate of drop for your hydraulics, how fast it goes down. Simple little 3-point hitch on the back, nothing fancy, just the turnbuckles and your top link. Not a lot of space. I added work lights. If you get the ones from the dealership, they usually cost you a pretty penny. I have a review on the Titan quick hitch you may want to check out. I did that when I bought it, and it works okay. It's better than Pat's, which I absolutely hate Pat's, and you can check out that video too. But it works okay. It's not as good as like a John Deere one or a Land Pride or whatever one you might get. This one's a Titan, and it's just these locks are kind of chintzy, and the paint, well, it's only been a year and it's already faded terribly. I knocked off one of the lights. Actually, one of my cows ate that, so this one's an LED, so that's an upgrade from what's standard factory. This one over here is the factory one, and I have another one of these. I just haven't put it on yet, so now they're kind of mismatched, but you can see the LED one and then the factory one, the analog. I think my only real complaint with this tractor has just been the light switch placement. It is just in that spot where your knees go, and I broke the little tab off it. It still works just fine, but I bumped my knee on it every single time I got on the tractor, and I'm only 5'10". I'm not a big guy, so I can't imagine somebody bigger than me not hitting that or finding it intrusive. But other than that, I really have no issues with this tractor. On this side, you got your cup holder. The ROPS folds, which is okay. You just gotta be careful of when you put it down and pick it up, because it kind of interferes with the 3-point if you're not careful. So generally, I put it down, and then it's just kind of it's a hit or miss. It's really pretty close usually. Here's your PTO. Retractable seat belts. I do like these. A lot of the machines don't have those. They just kind of flop around and you get them tangled in something. Head PTO would be here. Here's your standard 540 on the back. Here's your high-low range and neutral. Again, another work light. This tractor could be ordered with a shuttle shift, I believe, and that would have been here. That's what that's all about. Here's your four-wheel drive selector, and so off, on. And this right here is your differential lock. This one, yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I haven't been super happy with it. And then of course your clutch. So the clutch, you have to use it to change gears, or if you're going to engage or disengage your PTO. But it's almost like an independent PTO because you have a hydrostatic. So if you get into something, you just kind of take your foot off the rocker pedal and it keeps the PTO going. But if you want to stop it, then you push the clutch in. So it works okay. You got a tilt wheel here. This is your tilt wheel, and then over here is your cruise control. And the cruise control doesn't work very well. You can set it, and then you'll go about 300 feet, and it really slacks off a lot. So, not overly impressed with the cruise control on it. The loader frame on this tractor is really solid, and so Mahindra's done a good job with the frames on their loaders. They are pretty much everything I've seen on them, they always go front to back and attach to the rear of the tractor, so they're really rugged. And here's your hydraulic filter here. Now the issue I have had with this tractor, and I went around and tightened the bolts, and then I didn't think about it, and I drove it for probably about 40 hours, and then I noticed like half the bolts were missing that hold the loader on. So there's a few there, and then you got a bunch here, and then some in there. So I put some of those on. I had to retap a hole, and then I brought it back to the dealership for service because one of them was broken off inside, so they had to put a helix in there. I think it's a helix or helical, it's whatever it is. It's an insert with threads in it. So they fixed it, and then they thread locked it all, and I've used it about 30 hours, 40 hours since they've done that, and I haven't had any more issues. So it has been a good loader tractor. It's been a good compact utility tractor. I've got a 5-foot Tebben rotary cutter on there, bush hog, and another video I'll show you it running that. It does a fairly good job. The problem is just you don't have a lot of clearance underneath, and it's wide. I will give this tractor some credit for there, because a lot of the competitors, their width, their stance on the back is a lot more narrow, so this one sets out pretty good and wide, so it's really stable. I feel pretty good on this tractor. I got loaded tires on it when I bought it, but you still, if you're doing loader work, you really want something on the back like a weight box or something. With this tractor, I bought industrial tires with it. You could get turfs or ags, and for the purpose that I'm using this tractor for, which is primarily loader work, I think these industrial tires are the best bang for your buck. For one, they're wide. For two, the sidewalls are really thick, so they're multiple plies. They don't squat down like ag tires do. With ag tires, if you get a little bit underflated and you turn the wheels with a bucket full of something, you have a good chance to pop the tire off the rim. So if you do have ag tires, be careful and make sure you're fully inflated and that jazz. But they're great tires for what I'm using it for, albeit I do think they do tend to plug up a little bit quicker than ag tires. You can see I use this for cleaning out the barn, so it plugs up with manure pretty quick. And it does have reversible front wheels even with the industrial tires on it, so I've got them dished out. You can flip it around. You'd have to put it on the other side to have the treads go the right way, but it gave me a little bit more width on the front to match the back. And some people will tell you that, well, it decreases the amount the tractor will lift. Well, I haven't had any trouble with it, and so anyway, I don't think that's an issue. Some people will turn these tires around backwards, and they say I don't know why, you don't get really better traction because these tires are designed to shed the material out this way, and if you put them on backwards, then it just builds up. So I really frown on turning the tires around. It doesn't really give you much advantage. But again, even though I got the tires loaded, you really want a weight box on the back of it. And this tractor does go undercover usually, but it does stay out occasionally, so you can see it's fading a little bit. But Rust-Oleum International Harvester Red, perfect match. So you can touch it up a little bit, which I've done on the top of these because these are starting to turn pink. And a lot of these Mahindras, I think you've seen them, they turn pink after a while, and I'm not interested in a pink tractor, so Rust-Oleum IH Red. The MAX XLT, it's really a big tractor and a small footprint, and so with the 1626 you basically have the same motor, but you have the 16 series frame. So this is the compact frame, not the subcompact, but the compact frame. Why did I choose Mahindra over the competitors? Well, for one thing, the dealership is about 8 miles away, and they've got outstanding service. They've done whatever I've needed, they've taken care of, and most of it they didn't charge me for. So, a lot of times you go to a dealership, and as soon as you've given them their money, they don't ever care to see you again. I don't feel like that where I've gone, so I always encourage people to shop the dealership. So, apples to apples, if let's say the dealership wasn't a factor and all the dealerships were the same distance away, the Kubota's 12 miles, John Deere's about 18 or so, and there's a New Holland dealership about 30. So those are really the choices I've got. Then you got the off-color brands like the Bad Boys and everything like that. And I don't know, I've seen a lot of those TYM tractors come and go, and some people will say that about Mahindra too, and I guess I'm rolling the dice there, but you know, like Branson and some stuff, they come and they go, and then it's like, you know, I like Yanmar tractors, but those come and go, and so the off-brand tractors, it's kind of like, are they still going to be there in 10 years, you know? Mahindra's been here for almost 30, 40 years. They've been building tractors since the 60s. So I don't think they're going to go anywhere. The parts availability for them, it does take a little bit, you know, a couple weeks. I had to get a part from my other tractor, and it took about 3 months really to get it. Fortunately, the dealership was able to put a Band-Aid on it and get it to work. So when you start talking about parts availability, in my mind, you can't beat John Deere with parts. I hate to say it, but the John Deeres I've had, I've been able to get parts like within a few days. Kubota is right there with them, and I don't have a lot of experience with the others, but that's one problem with the Mahindras, is if you need a part, well, you're kind of up the creek waiting for it. So the fit and finish of this tractor is pretty good. It's a Mitsubishi, and it's got the Japanese quality, so I like it. But if I was gonna, let's say I'm gonna buy a new tractor and all things are equal, I'd probably buy a Kubota, and it's just because the Kubotas I've had none issues. They are quiet as a church mouse, and you don't even need the dealership because nothing breaks. At least that's been my experience. So what do I say? Well, Mahindra's been a good tractor. It has been a good tractor, and I wouldn't discourage you from buying one. I think they're okay. I think they're, you know, they're not John Deere or Kubota or Case New Holland quality, but they're up there, you know. Like a lot of the TYM dealerships, they're just putting the cheap prices on it and pushing them out the door, and then they don't have any service behind them. So the dealership where I bought this, because some of the Mahindras are built by TYM, they've been getting some of the TYM business, and they're really slammed. But they don't really have a lot of these tractors coming back, I guess. So when I've talked to the service department, and the salesman there has been a friend of the family for quite a while, so he's not a bull crapper. These tractors, as long as you take care of your loader bolts and you go around once in a while and check your wheel bolts, you'll never have an issue with these tractors. They never come back. Once they sell them, they go out. And the 1626 is essentially this tractor, but with the 16 series chassis on it. So it's just a little bit bigger, you know, but power-wise, it's the same tractor. And they don't get those back either. Those never come back. So if you're going to buy a Mahindra, I would look at either the MAX 26 XLT or the 1626, and they're both Mitsubishi tractors. I don't have any issues with them, and they're just solid, good tractors. So that said, this has been a good tractor, and I haven't had any issues other than the bolts, and that's my fault because I wasn't paying attention. I haven't had any other issues with this tractor. It's been a good tractor. So would I buy it again? Well, all things considered, knowing what I knew, I'd probably still buy the same tractor because nothing's changed, you know. When I get to like the 1635 tractor, I've had quite a bit of issues with that, and it's nothing serious, and the dealership has fixed it every time. And I had a 2538 Mahindra, and I think they made that one on a Friday afternoon. That thing was junk. So those TYM tractors, they're the 26 series now. I don't think I'd buy one of those. I've seen horror shows with wheels falling off and the AC cabs units not working, and so I hate to badmouth them, but I've seen a lot of those at the dealership. I've seen a lot of those TYM tractors at the Mahindra dealership. So they're TYM built for Mahindra, but those are the ones coming back. It's not the Mitsubishi ones. So I guess I can't beat this dead horse enough by telling you that the Mitsubishi ones are good. TYM ones, so like I said, the dealership is stellar. If I was going to do it all over again, I'd probably get a Kubota, but you know, it's not 100% guaranteed. It's just the service at the Mahindra dealership has been stellar, and I've been very happy with them. I got a good deal on it, and so what's happened around here is all the Kubota and John Deere dealers, the mom and pop stores are gone. They've conglomerated into like you know, a company that owns like all the stores pretty much, so they pretty much charge you whatever they want. Whereas the mom and pop stores, they're still pretty competitive and give you some pretty good discounts. If all things are equal, I'd probably buy a Kubota. So I hate to be this guy to tell you it's not the greatest tractor in the world, but honestly, I think Kubota is a way better tractor. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have any comments or anything to add, put it down bottom. I'd love to hear from you. And as always, if you haven't already, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate all the viewers. Thank you, and have a great afternoon.